Welcome to the First Responder Wellness Podcast Live. My name is Conrad Weaver. Thanks for joining us today. Welcome to the show. In just a minute, I'm going to introduce our guest. If you are, wherever you are watching from, please put a comment in the comments here on YouTube so that we can know who you are and where you're watching from. That'd be awesome. And just remember that anytime during the show, if you have a question for our guest, please put it in the comments and we will address those questions as we can. But in the meantime, I want to introduce to you guys our guest today, Vance Row. He is now a retired public safety professional in Ocean City, Maryland. He does a lot of things. He was a cop for 20 some years. He was a 911 dispatcher, and he does a lot of stuff with yoga, and he's a guide for Boulder Crest Foundation. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together and welcome to the stage, Vance Row.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Conrad. Thanks for
Hi,
having me.
Vance. Absolutely. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good.
Good.
It's been a big week for me so
Yeah, I
far.
know. It's this is I didn't when we scheduled this, I didn't realize that you were going. This is going to be your retirement week. So, talk to me.
Yeah.
How's that feeling? How's that working?
I don't think it's totally set in just yet. It felt really good, but what I'll share with you is the 3 days that I was at work this week were incredibly emotional, and not like but it ranged all the emotions. Like there was some happy, there was some sad. It ranged kind of all over the place. And the last couple of months, I had really been battling. What I found out was like going through the grieving process because my
Mm,
emotions would just like go all over the place. And my shift was really sweet. They did three different things for me, starting with a surprise dinner last Saturday
mm,
night, where we got everybody together. So that was really nice. And then they made a scrapbook of all my like police years plus my dispatcher years to send me off with. And then they did a radio call. That was like the
mm.
last thing that they did, and that brought the tears for
Yeah,
sure.
I'm sure.
Mm.
I'm sure. Yeah. So now that you have all this time, what are you doing with yourself?
So, well, the last 2 days have been full of just errands,
Hmm.
honestly, and just cleaning some stuff up and things like that. What life looks like moving forward is everybody asks me what are you going to do with yourself, and
Hmm.
look, I'm gonna teach and take a lot of yoga classes.
Hmm.
I'm gonna play with our dogs as much as I can. I'm gonna get out on my paddleboard. I just bought myself a new paddleboard as my retirement
Those
gift to
things
myself.
scare me, you know? Those things
No,
scare me.
bro, I got you. I got an extra one. Amy
All
wants to
right.
learn this. Amy's ready to learn this summer too.
That's
So we're
cool.
gonna do that. And then we got our newest little dog. We got her a little life vest. So I'm gonna try to teach her how to paddleboard too.
She's going to be out there surfing on the board, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's gonna
Yeah.
it's gonna do that, and then I'm not totally like out of the mental health and public safety,
Hmm.
and I'll still teach for Boulder Crest and teach for the Struggle Well classes. I'll still teach yoga classes for O2X,
Hmm.
um, and then I guess we'll see. Listen. I talked to my therapist about this quite a bit, and you got to understand that for 25 plus years. So I'll even go like I'll say 30 years because I'll include my time in college when I'm playing football, and then 25 years of like public safety work. Everything has been structured. Everything has been like I know where I'm going to be, what I'm going to be doing, and I feel like things were planned out and I had some control. And I don't have a plan. I
Hmm.
really I don't have a hard plan like all right, I retired from this job on this day, and then on this day I'm going to show up at 9 a.m. and I'm going to start doing this.
Hmm.
It's not like that, and we're going to kind of feel it out.
Hmm. I think this is an important topic because I know there's a lot of people that are in your situation. In fact, just today I saw on my Facebook feed that a friend of mine here locally, a dispatcher, just retired.
Hmm.
And so I think this is a pertinent topic to talk about. And maybe we can spend the next couple minutes just kind of unpacking that a little bit. Um, and the importance of kind of setting yourself up for that next thing is, I think, is vital to a healthy retirement. We've both seen people who have retired, hung up their shingle, hung up their badge, their all their stuff, and within a few years they're gone.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's it's tragic. In fact, I had a fire chief, I mean a police chief on the show a while back who said that he was 5 years from retirement, and he said I need to be able to do something. And he's like now a musician and he sings and does all this stuff. But he was like, I knew that, I could be dead in 5 years
Yeah.
and I've got to have something good to
Yeah.
go to and to do in order to have a successful retirement. And I think that's so important.
Listen, statistically, he's exactly right.
Mm,
Statistically, police officers live 5 years beyond retirement.
mm,
And I mean, that's awful. And I think a lot of it goes to the reason I'm doing what I'm doing, that we need to address mental health, physical health. We need to address it in our careers so that once the time you get to retirement, you live long, long, healthy retirements. And that's a big
absolutely.
deal to me. And as far as like my personal, as far as like retirement planning and things like that, I mean, we have certainly talked to a financial advisor.
Hmm.
Um, we certainly have retirement funds that are put away, both for me and for Amy separately. Um, we don't have kids, so I feel like that's a really big thing. With lots of people have kids and maybe they're in high school, so they're planning for college. So people are staying. Lots of people stay, with the kids again because of like health insurance and stuff like that. That just wasn't my circumstance.
Hmm.
Um, I talk to a lot of people that I work with, and I certainly meet a lot of people by doing Boulder Crest and teaching for different like CIT programs. And the thing that I always hear is, well, if I stay, I can make this much more money.
Hmm.
Okay, well, look, if you stay 12 more months, you're always going to be able to make more money.
Hmm.
But at what point are you just going to acknowledge that this isn't for me anymore?
Hmm.
There's so many people that get to that like 15-year mark, 20-year mark, and they're miserable. But they're like,
Hmm.
well, but the money's good.
Hmm.
Okay. Well, at,
Hmm.
at some point, when do you put yourself first?
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we were. I could stay an extra 3 years, and I could make um, a really nice chunk of change. It's just
Hmm.
I can't do it. And when I said that to my wife, she's like, I get it. If you look back in time, a year and a half, um, she was at a job for 24 years, and she started working under a boss that she couldn't take anymore. And she comes home one day and she's like, I don't think I can do it anymore. I think I'm just going to quit. And I think she made it another 3 weeks until she
Hmm.
quit. And I mean, she pulled the plug without having. We didn't have a plan. And just like me, we're like, we'll figure it out.
Hmm.
The two of us are smart. We're resourceful. We'll figure it out, whatever that means.
Hmm. So you are known for your yoga antics.
Right, right.
And so I want to kind of dive into that. How do you think yoga will continue to support you or help you even in your retirement, in the mental health aspect of your retirement?
So I teach a local studio class here in Ocean City, but then I also teach for agencies will hire me to teach like 1 day, 2 day, 3 day kind of things. And then the other part is I've been teaching at first responder recovery houses,
Hmm.
which that certainly touches my heart. Um, so do I wish it took off more? Sure, but it's slow. And again, um, this is an unconventional modality to use
Hmm.
with a population that doesn't necessarily adapt to change real well. So I understand that it's going to take a little while, and they kind of got to feel that part out, and maybe they need to meet me and see me face to face,
Hmm.
and we need to do something where I show them. And so that's kind of what it is. Now, am I always excited when I get an email that it's like, hey, we want to do this? I'm like, yes, finally. Uh, I've been teaching for 4 years, and I knew it was going to be slow. Um, but more and more people are starting to get on board, and more people are starting to say, "All right, we've been listening to you for a while. We've been following you on social media for a while. We want to see if this is what you proclaim it to be."
Mhm.
And
So
everybody that tries it, they have very positive things to say.
I want to ask you, why is yoga important to you?
Me personally,
Yes.
so I can list off all kinds of different as far as like being more flexible, being stronger, being a little more balanced, helping me sleep. Here's the big one for me. Um, so there's a time where I can't get out of my own head, and I just have all the thoughts. And the image that I like to use is, and it's a Christmas time image. It's when you shake up the snow globe
Mm,
and you have all the snow all around the place. And think of every single one of those things being a thought. So I was trying to have all the thoughts all at once.
mm,
And what yoga did is it taught me to slow down and that I don't have to figure out everything all at once and that I can take one thing at a time. So the big thing for me was it slowed my mind down. And it allowed me to start to tap back into intuition, which I didn't even know I had. And it allowed me to start to feel. And then I started to reap some of those other benefits too. But that's the big one for me.
mm. And so when you were, this was a while back in your career that you kind of got into yoga. You were a cop's cop. You were, you're a football player. Why, how? I mean, how does someone like you get into yoga?
I mean, a lot of people will say like, "Oh, I found yoga." I think it actually found me.
Hmm.
I say like this is like, um, I don't find myself to be a totally religious person, but I do feel like I'm pretty spiritual, and I think the universe I think puts things uh, kind of in and around you when you are supposed to find them.
Hmm.
So the reason that I ended up in a yoga studio at the time that I do is like finger of God stuff. Like
Hmm.
you're like a chess piece and you're getting moved into because I had honestly I had talked myself out of going to a studio class for so long, and I didn't know what I needed at that point. I was emotionally in a very bad state. I had literally just stopped drinking after being confronted by my wife, and I just one day was like, like how bad could it be? And I immediately got this feeling of community, and that was the big one. Out of the first class, this group of people that nobody's even really talking to each other. You're just all in there together doing the same thing, and I'm letting go of a lot of these bad emotions because I'm finally in a place where I feel like I'm safe enough to do so. And I didn't realize how much I had pulled myself away from the things that I love and the people that I love. Um, and that's what started to bring it back was this community of yoga. Um, so then I was like, well, I like this. And Amy always laughs because I don't do anything a little bit. So I started going to more and more classes. And then within a month, uh, I had made the decision that I was going to teach it to people like me. And then it was just a matter of going through some teacher trainings. And I mean, I look back on it now. I mean, like there's an awful lot of like instruction stuff that I've actually been through. Um, it's staggering. I was just doing like one thing at a time, and then all of a sudden, I like look back at a resume of all the things that I've done at this point, and it's pretty amazing, honestly.
Mhm. Do you think that thing of pulling away, you said you were pulling away from the people around you. Do you think that's typical within the first responder community?
I do. I think when you start seeing folks isolating themselves, and I mean, mine was to the point where uh, I didn't really necessarily want to be around people. And when I would be around people, I would have to use alcohol to numb any of the emotions. And then even when I was by myself, I would have to use alcohol to numb, um, which I didn't understand that at the time. That is years of like talking to therapists and things like that to like really go back and delve into like why are you doing what you're doing. At the time, I was just miserable and I was angry all the time, and I didn't know why. And again, it's now like using that lens to look back. It's like, oh well, this is why. Um, but it was just years and years of just cumulative trauma on top of each other. And I didn't have a healthy way to get it out. And that's what I want to share with other people now, a healthy way to get it out, a healthy way to maybe mitigate some of the stress that they're under, uh, finding a way to settle their brain down so they can sleep, because that's one of those things that eludes every single first responder.
Hmm.
Um, and if you don't sleep, your body can't restore itself.
Hmm.
So, for all these reasons, that's that's really my why at this point.
Hmm. How does the act of doing yoga, all the different poses and all the different exercises, how does that help you sleep better?
So it's not just the poses. So yoga is more about um, starting to just kind of get in touch with your breath and getting in touch back with your body, rather than being wrapped around your mind and kind of letting your mind take you wherever it is that it's going to take you. So it's more about um, trying to start to integrate your breath into movement. Now, what happens is when you take these repetitive deep breaths, and you could do it for like 6 cycles, you will start to immediately notice that you're going to start to become a little calmer. And the reason why is because just in that short amount of time, you're going to start to tap into your parasympathetic nervous system. All right. So now think about doing that for an hour, that you are so focused on your breath. And then, all right, well, I'm going to move my breath along with making some poses and making some shapes with my body. But it's really focused on trying to keep these deep, smooth breaths. At the end of it, that's why you feel so good, because you've been in that parasympathetic nervous system for so long at that point.
Hmm. So, because when people think of yoga, they think of the warrior pose or the down dog or whatever that
Sure.
pose is, and some of those things, and that's not really the main thing then.
No, the real magic in it is the idea that you can get to some of these poses and you can get to this point of discomfort. And rather than running away from that discomfort, that you can stay with it, that you can stay with your breath. And then what you're actually doing, and I'm gonna tap into some of my brain science friend Sue Radcliffe. You can actually create a new neural pathway in your brain that, if I stay here in this discomfort, I'm going to be okay, and I'm in a safe place and I can do that. So you actually can rewire your brain. When the brain constantly had thought that it had been in this threat state where it felt like it had been in this fight or flight state for all this time, you can train it that it can be in a different state.
Hmm. So that's because most of us just go through life not thinking about that. We just do
No,
the things, and we don't think about how we breathe because it's automatic, right?
right. But
Yes.
a lot of times when we, all right, so anytime that you feel like you're in, so the way that your brain is wired, the way that all of us are wired is we're constantly wired to find threat, and that's just from our caveman ancestors. And every time that there is a threat or what we perceive to be a threat, we start to get into this fight or flight mode. And when you do that, you start breathing like up into your chest, and you start breathing real rapid and shallow, because your body thinks it's about to be in the fight of its life. So there's this whole experience part to yoga, that you have to settle everyone in, and you have to make them into this place where it actually is safe and you can close your eyes and you can breathe. And then we slowly start working up into doing some more challenging and more balanced poses and things like that. And maybe we move a little bit faster, and you start to notice like that your heart beats a little faster, and what does that do to your breath? Again, it's all kind of like retraining you. um, I mean, we can call it tactical yoga, and we can wear all black if that's what it's going to take. I mean,
It reminds me of when I was out in California working on my film, and I spent some time with the folks at Cal Fire. And I was actually there when they were doing a train the trainer, and we had a yoga instructor there who was taking people through all, how to train to do yoga. And one of the fire chiefs that I was talking to was like, when I first started this thing, I was like, how hard can this be?
Right.
You know, it's easy, right? And he was
Right.
like, and I got into it and I realized, oh, it's a little bit more difficult than what I realized, and so I think perhaps there's other first responders who are in that camp, the tough
Yeah.
guys who are the tactical SWAT guys and the firefighters who have to carry hundreds of pounds of gear. And so how important is it for people like that who are in those industries and those that kind of work to have this kind of awareness of their breathing, of their bodies, and how important is that for health?
Well, I think, a lot of their life is probably almost on autopilot, and
Hmm.
they're I don't want to say asleep at the wheel, but they're not manually taking the steering wheel anymore. And I think that these are the things yoga can help that, in the fact that um, literally we're just moving one body part at a time, and we're just and then I'm gonna cue you to find the sensation, like right there. And maybe you haven't noticed what your leg feels like in 25 years. And I know that that sounds simple, but like literally, if you just think, I'm not going to feel anything, and if I just keep being productive, or if I keep answering calls, if I keep making arrests, if I keep doing this, then I don't have to deal with the own things. I don't have to deal with things in my life. The reason that yoga is so powerful is that, look, I know you're going to be in a class with other people, but you're really kind of reflecting yourself. You're on this mat, and it really kind of makes you hold a mirror up, that you start looking at yourself. So that's a big one to me. Is that, look, they could have put me in front of a door and given me that breaching tool, and I don't even have to think about it. I can just bam. I did the amount of firearms training that, if any time that somebody was to pull a gun on me, I don't even think I would have had to think about it. I think my gun would have been in my hand and I would have had it pointed at them. Uh, but how often does that happen? And this is a point that I bring up a lot in my presentations. Look, I did a lot of in-service training. I did a lot of different specialized training in what I was doing. And look, if you ask me to beat, bang, or break anything, I'm really good at it. Um, but the fact of the matter is, I don't have to do that every day. But you know what I do have to do every day? It's think.
Hmm.
And when do we address that? At what point do we talk about, like, and are you in the right state of mind to be making these life or death decisions? Um, do you want the person that literally hasn't slept in 3 or 4 days, that is fueling it on energy drinks and cigarettes, and then all of a sudden they get put into this life or death situation? What's your choice going to be?
Hmm.
And it's a way to settle the mind down.
It in my travels across the country and interacting with first responders from different places, it's amazing how many organizations, how many agencies, put all this money into training, into the best gear, the best, in the firefighting world, the best bunker gear, the best nozzle on the truck. And, for cops, it's, the best weapons or the best tactical gear, but they don't want to spend money on this part of the
Right,
anatomy.
right, right.
The most
There's a there's
important
a
part.
there's a person that wears that uniform. There's a person that actually uses that equipment,
Right.
and it's like that's the most difficult thing for us to address. And a lot of times, in any of this peer support stuff that I've done, and this is kind of outside of the yoga stuff, but um, are we checking in with one another? Are we
Mm-hmm.
asking? And I feel like we aren't.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of that is because if I ask you how you're doing, and you're like, yeah, I'm not so good, and like I'm
Now
having
what?
some bad thoughts. Oh,
Yeah.
what are we going to do now? And I
Yeah.
don't think people know how to handle that. So I think
Mm-hmm.
they don't ask because they don't want to hear the answer.
Hmm.
And it's not that I don't think they care. That's the thing. It's just that they're just not appropriately trained, or don't know the resources that they can hand somebody over to, that we can get them what they need. And the problem, because so what this does is it feeds the idea of silence, that oh God, I better not tell anybody about this
Hmm.
because they're going to take my job away.
Hmm.
So what am I going to do to get to the end of my uh, 25-year career? And how much booze over what period of time do I have to handle that amount of terrible emotions?
Hmm. What happened with you? Kind of working back into your story. What happened
Mhm.
with you when you started being vocal?
Um, so I was not, my first 2 years of sobriety. I didn't talk about it at all, and that was more because of, I was trying to work on me, really. And
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't in a and I was not in a position where I could talk about it yet. I wasn't
Sure.
I didn't feel strong enough in my own stuff that I can start to share it with other people.
Do you
And then
think
I
some
start
people maybe start that process too soon and
you
start?
mean starting to talk
Yeah.
out? I
Yeah.
actually do.
Hmm.
I'm going to tell you that the first 18 months I was pretty fragile, and like couldn't be around other people that were drinking. Um, and it's still to this day, there's people that I used to drink with that you can tell they're very uncomfortable around me.
Hmm.
And I'm sure what's going on as well. We hung out a lot. Like we went out on Saturday nights, or we did this, or we went away to here. Well, and if he had a problem, what's that say about me?
Hmm.
And look, everybody can have their own points. And I don't know if I ever would have stopped on my own. I had my uh, I had my world rocked when my wife videotapes me and shows it to me, and is like, "Hey, dude, you're a mess." So that really kind of initiated change, and
Hmm.
I don't think that was her intent. It was more like, "This is what you look like, and we need to start doing something about it." Um, I can't think. So I was really interested in peer support, and it's funny. So if you go back to like 2016, I'm working crazy hours. I'm miserable at work though. I'm drinking an awful lot. Um, I go to a class and I'm really interested in it. I'm really interested in peer support at that point. And part of it, and this is what's funny. I'm like, uh, I I think I'd like to be involved with this. And yeah, I certainly want to help my brothers and sisters, but I saw the problem in me. And I'm like, well, if I just get around this, maybe I can figure myself out a little bit. And that was my thinking. Um, but then it takes another, it takes a significant injury. It takes getting confronted about drinking. It takes all these other things before I'm actually willing to admit that there's a problem and start finding the healing process and what works for me. And it's not a one-stop thing. It's not like I went to, I do like to tell people this, look, I didn't go to one yoga class and all of a sudden I'm fixed.
Hmm.
It's a constant recipe of different things throughout my day and throughout my week that keep me right. Um, and I have to hold myself accountable to do those types of things. Um, when I started going to peer support things, when I started to meet other people like me,
Hmm.
other people that had had problems, and when I started to have these conversations, and they were sharing things with me that I mean, I was like, "Are you in my head?" Because it was thoughts that I had had that I had never told to other people. But when you sit in a room of addicts, uh, you start to get real truthful.
Hmm.
And it was just easy because we're all there because we have a problem.
Common ground.
And right, and sharing became so
Hmm.
open. So that's what actually started the conversation of me talking about it. Um, I think it's not until I don't think it's till like the 3 year mark that I talk about, that I publicly share anything on social media about like getting sober. And I don't think I talked about anything. I mean, I think I did a podcast maybe right around that point, and I couldn't even talk about having like the suicidal thoughts at that point.
Hmm.
It wasn't until like uh, maybe a couple months later or something like that that I could start to talk about it. And it helped because Amy would come to a lot of the presentations right in the beginning. So I always had like that friendly face right there in the front. Because the first couple times that I talked about any of this publicly,
Was that
it's
scary?
pretty emotional. I mean, you
Yeah.
are literally laying yourself out
Mm-hmm.
for other people, and but it's worth it. It's worth
Mm-hmm.
it every single time because I always get somebody that like taps me on the shoulder afterwards. That's like, "Can I talk to you?" Or I get a message either through like one of my social media accounts or through on my phone or something like that. That's like, "Me too. Can we talk
Mm-hmm.
for a little bit?" And the answer is always yes. Uh, because I just don't think that they felt like they ever had somebody to talk to. And so here's the thing: if we don't talk about it, then the problem is never ever going to get fixed.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to shed light on it in order for uh, this to get solved. And
Mm-hmm.
the only way that that happens is people like me and people that I've met across the nation, uh, that we talk about it. That this is the kind of stuff that we went through, and this is what worked for me. Um, and I think it's really made this nice little brother and sisterhood separately of what I came from in public safety.
Mm-hmm. How was when you and you started doing yoga when you were still on the street as a cop, right?
No, I
Oh
had
no, or was
already
that after?
no
Was
no
that
no
after
I had
that?
already I had already so I mean I had done all right I had done a yoga class, but it was at my home, on a DVD. If I know I'm dating myself a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
uh, but I never thought that I could do it around other people. Like I didn't think I could go to a yoga studio, um,
Mm-hmm.
so I would talk myself out of it. It wasn't until I get hurt in 2016, and then in November of 2019, uh, that's when Amy confronts me about drinking. It's within a couple days after that that I go to a yoga studio for the first time. That's why I say like that's like finger of God stuff,
Mm-hmm.
or it's like, okay, this kid needs something. How about this? And I never thought, my joke that I sometimes say is, uh, I can't imagine that 25 years ago I would have been sitting in a chief of police office and they're like, tell me where you are at the end of your career, and be like, well, listen, I had a crippling alcohol addiction, and had thoughts of killing myself, but now I want to teach yoga to help other people mitigate stress and so that they don't want to kill themselves. I can't imagine that that's where like life goes, but that's um, I'm going through the doors that are opening for me, and I'm taking the opportunities that the universe is setting out in front of me.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, we're getting some great comments. I think your friend Carrie from Chicago has said you are spot on. So, so yeah.
Thank you,
So,
Carrie.
and if you have a question, if you're watching this and have a question for Vance, just put it in the chat. I'll see it, and then we can shoot it over to Vance so he can pontificate on
All
the
right.
questions that you may have.
Okay. All right.
Um, so, what is someone to do if they're in a department that maybe they've thought about doing some kind of yoga class? How can someone get started doing this within their department, within their agency?
You want, okay, so not just for themselves to start like a personal
Yeah.
practice, but to
Hmm.
to actually get the agency on board.
Yep.
Um, so I think you can start with a couple different things. Honestly, you can. I would suggest that you have somebody talk that has some knowledge about like what yoga is and why it can benefit. I'm certainly willing to have that conversation. Um, but I think you have to have the first thing is you have to have command level of support,
Hmm.
and for them to say, yeah, we're interested in doing this because I think you can have all the line cops that and firefighters and dispatchers, and they can say, yeah, we really want to do this, but you get to a command staff level and they're just like, no, and it's unfortunate, and that's why you have people like me that, I mean, I just kind of did my own thing outside of it, and now I'm kind of taking, I guess, the back door where like, well, I went and did all this other stuff, So now, like, is this interesting to you? And I've got my own mats. I've got, you just give me a big enough room and I'll come to you. Um, there are companies that are out there. I know like Fireflex Yoga would certainly
Hmm.
come to people. Yoga for first responders. They've got a number of different teachers that can teach. Um, yeah, I will. I would also tell you that anybody that's trained through like Warriors at Ease or Veterans Yoga Project, even though theirs are specific to the armed services, that it is translatable over into the first responder world. So any of those folks, it's not necessarily just a 200-hour studio teacher that can just go in and teach first responders. I think you have to have a little bit of knowledge about culture
Sure.
in order to actually bridge that gap.
It's just like having
And
the right therapist that is culturally competent, that understands the first responder culture.
exactly right. Exactly
Yeah.
right.
So, well, I just want to say that you've done amazing work. You've done amazing things, and you've done some really hard things in your life. And I want to say congratulations.
Thanks, my man.
And it's just it's an honor to know you and to call you a friend and to be kind of in your orbit of
Nice.
sorts.
You know
And
that goes both ways.
well, I understand. Yeah, thank you for that. You've been a huge supporter of the film and promoter of the film, and I appreciate that, and I love you for that.
Definitely.
And together we can make a difference in the world, in
That's
the
right.
people that we connect with.
That's right.
Um,
One at a time.
yeah. So so how do you get big burly first responders to do downward dog?
We don't start there. That's the easiest answer there is we don't start there. We start at honestly, I'm going to tell you every class. I'm always going to start people on their backs
Mm,
um, because I think it's the easiest way for you to start to pay attention to your breath. And the reason why is because look, a lot of times when you're sitting upright, and not a lot of people can cross their legs. That's really hard to do. A lot of people have tight hips, so when I'm trying to talk to them about their breath, they're like, "Well, my hips really hurt." Well, I want to make you at a point where you're at ease, so
mm,
everybody can lay on their back. Plus, you can kind of feel your belly start to move back and forth. So that's really the first thing. And then generally, we'll start to move arms, legs. We'll start to do some gentle movements. It's not probably until like maybe a 10 or 15-minute mark into a class that I even propose the idea of we're going to try this of a downward facing dog, and we'll probably do it something out of being on hands and knees and trying to like straighten your legs. It's everything is slow, everything is deliberate, and everything is done completely on purpose. Um, but yeah, because I don't like, and I don't. The funny part is I don't like to tell people where they're going
mm,
because if I tell them, hey, by the end of this class, you're going to stand on one foot,
mm,
and they're all going to be like, no,
mhm,
all right. So if I just take you there step by step, what it ends up doing is it ends up like almost shocking them and giving them this confidence that they didn't know that they just did something that they didn't know that they could do.
mhm,
And that's always my favorite. I always
mm.
like to give a challenge, and you don't have to get it on the first time. Just try, because you learn an awful lot about what happens after you fall and what happens after you fail. Because just get back up, just do it again.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And that's why it's there. That's why we practice, because we ain't all perfect
It's called practice, right?
for a
For
reason.
for a reason.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are you most proud of in your journey?
Uh, I mean, for me, it's getting sober.
Mm,
Uh, because that piece had to happen for any of the rest of this to happen.
mm.
So that was an enormous piece. Um, so that's the one that I constantly. Uh, sorry, I left the earbud. Um, that's the one that I'm constantly very very proud of, and I'll tell you why. I kept holding on to this one thing because I didn't think that I could stop drinking, because I couldn't comprehend what life would look like if I stopped, um, until I get that confrontation where it's not even like a choice anymore. It's like I don't ever want to have this conversation again, so I'm not going to drink today. Um, what's amazing is the things that show up in my life after that point, and I couldn't see those things before. Uh, so I don't know how much you know of Joseph Campbell, um, but a lot of time he'll talk about walls being in place, and when you start to have these kind of like awakenings, there starts to be doors where there used to be walls. So the, those things were not evident to me at the time, but then all of a sudden these doors start to open, and now I can try these different places. I've shared this with a number of different people when I talk about sobriety, and it's I have such an appreciation for having a real conversation with people right now, that you can like sit down and you're like touching hearts almost, that you're like connected. And the reason that I'm so appreciative is because I don't want to admit how many nights there are probably out there in the world that I have no idea what
Mhm.
someone else told me or what I told them, because of, we were out, we were having fun, and the amount of alcohol that I had had. So that genuine connection, like I have a huge amount of gratefulness for that now.
Mm. Wow. Well, I mean, I remember, and I've talked about this on the podcast before, but I remember a few years ago, I was invited to come to an AA meeting, and not because I needed to, but because they wanted to give me the experience of that. And I've been really fortunate, and I haven't had, an addiction problem in that area. So I'm really thankful for that. But attending this group, it was down in Washington, D.C. It was a group that had been meeting every day for 30 years plus
Mm-hmm.
down in DuPont Circle. And I walked in, didn't know anybody except the person who, invited me. And it was a transformative experience for me.
Mm-hmm.
It was an experience of, it wasn't, some AA groups are more faith-based groups. This is not a faith-based group. They had the 12 steps on the wall. They had all the things. I felt so much love in that place.
Mm-hmm.
Total acceptance. I mean, there was black and white, every kind of ethnicity in the room, gay, straight, all kinds of people, people who loved Jesus, people who probably hated Jesus. I don't know. But, there was all kinds of people in the room, but they were there for one reason, because they
Yep.
needed to be sober.
Yep.
And they supported each other. They encouraged each other. They challenged each other. They loved each other. And it was a religious experience for me. It really was just it's like, wow, this is what true love and encouragement and support really looks like.
That's right.
Do you think that is a good, if for someone who's struggling with alcohol abuse or drug abuse or whatever, do you think that is a good first step for someone to just try it?
It can be. Um, and I can tell you from, and I'm very open about that. I did not do the AA route.
Hmm.
I leaned on some friends that had done the AA route. And I've heard all the cops. They all say the same thing, that they don't want to be in the same room with somebody that they arrested. Totally get it. Um, but what I'll also share is there are uh, in-person and online meetings that
Hmm.
are first responders only. So
Hmm.
maybe that can be the first step.
Yeah.
Um, and maybe, you know, uh,
Do
when
you know
we
where
had,
you can find those kind of groups? Is there like a clearinghouse where people can find those kind of?
I'll tell you one of the best ones is, if you go to there's an organization called Warriors Heart, and it's down in Texas,
Hmm.
and they run a meeting every night at 7 p.m. Other than, I want to say, Sunday and Monday they don't do one, but every night they have first responders and veterans. They have a meeting. There's another group that I would have to. It's called Badges and Bottles, and that one's every Tuesday night at 7. But I'd have to send you the actual link info.
Hmm.
But again, Zoom meeting. Um, those are the two that I can think of off the top of my head. And then there's some that if for folks that go, well, let me go one step farther. All right, so if you decide that you know you go to a meeting and you're like, look, I need a little bit more than this. This isn't quite enough. There are first responder only uh, rehab places
Hmm.
that you can go to. Now,
Is Warriors
we're
Heart one of those? Well, I guess they're more of a retreat center, right?
no, but that you can do that too,
Okay. Okay.
and that's veterans and first responders.
Hmm.
There are a number that are across the nation that are, vetted by the IAFF and vetted
Hmm.
vetted by the FOP. The closest ones to me, being on the Eastern Shore of Maryland, about 2 hours away, there's one called Harbor of Grace,
Yes.
and they have some good national notoriety.
Hmm.
Recovery Center of America has a rescue program that it's all first responders and veterans. Those are the two closest to me, but there are some more that are down in like Florida. There's some
Hmm.
that are gorgeous that are out in like California.
Hmm.
I know my friend Brad is involved with Chateau,
Yep.
and they're out
That's in
in
Idaho,
Utah.
or is it
Utah.
Utah? Is it Utah?
Yep.
Okay. Hmm. Yeah, I know Maddie Fiorenza, part of our film. He's involved with a group like that down in Southern California as well.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Yeah. So there are ways that you can go and just be with people like you, because I understand. Like maybe you don't want to go and just be with anybody. Just like with
mhm.
the AA route, that there are routes that are first responders and veterans only. So people
Yep.
that talk the same way you do, that have lived their life the same way that you do, that you're probably going to feel an immediate connection with.
Hmm.
Those resources are out there.
Hmm. So Carrie wants to know, and I'll put this on the screen.
Okay.
Do you have any upcoming speaking engagements or conferences that you're going to in participating in?
Uh, I'm not. I'm not speaking at anything coming up. However, I am planning to go to a couple different things. There's one in Virginia, the first responder wellness. That is the second week of September. I am planning to go to the National Cops uh, Trauma and Wellness, and that'll
Mhm.
be in New Orleans this
New
year. That
Orleans.
one
Yep.
is in November.
Right.
And then one that I went to for the first time last year. I spoke at it last year. I may speak at it again this year. Is the Tennessee First Responder Suicide Task Force.
Right.
Really, really nice
Yeah.
group of people, and that's the end of October. So those are the ones that are on my radar. I am certainly willing to travel. I am certainly willing to speak. I just don't happen to have anything national coming up.
So if you want to learn more about Vance and his organization, his group called Yoga Rescue, his website is yoga-rescue.com. Check it out. And I think there's contact information here.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
all my
there's an
social
email down
stuff's on
here.
there, and
Yep.
then my email, my phone number, uh, yeah, all the things. So
Yeah.
there's definitely a way to get a hold of me.
Yeah. And if you just want to go to the website, I'm going to put the link up here if I can find it here
Oh,
in my things here to see. Here it is. Yeah, the website is yoga-rescue.com to get in touch with Vance. Vance, you've been a friend for a while, and you've done amazing work with us in
cool.
promoting the film um, and just being. I'll never forget. We were on our bike ride, wrapping up our bike ride, coming into Ocean City, Maryland, and me and John. And John may be watching this today, so he'll remember this. We were riding along, and all of a sudden I saw this guy beside the road with a camera sitting there, like ready to take pictures. I was like, "Oh, there's some guy taking pictures." And then, like a mile or two later, there he was again, and and it was you, and you were taking pictures of us riding into town, and
Yeah, I kept
that
trying to
was
just get ahead of you guys,
yeah, you
and
were
then
like getting your car and racing ahead and
yep,
getting pictures, and that was a really fun experience. And then we had a screening there in Ocean City. Had several there in Ocean City over the
yeah,
last couple of years.
yeah,
So,
yeah, that's right.
and then you were part of a number of other screenings in the greater Delmarva region.
Yeah.
So that was fantastic. Yeah, John just said, "Yeah, who was that guy?"
Right, right. I kept popping up like on the median. Like, yeah,
Yeah. Uh,
I think I scared Rick Barton once. Like, is this guy stalking us?
yeah, right. So that was fun, and but we're really thankful that for you and for what you are doing, and really proud of you and your retirement. Just excited to see what you're going to do in the next few weeks and months, and
Yeah, you're not the only one. I can't wait to see what happens.
so yeah, it's going to be exciting too. We need to get together sometime
Yeah, for sure.
and do
Hey, my
something.
schedule just freed up like a
Oh, it
lot.
did? Okay, great. And for those of you who are interested in the film, if you are actually living in the Michigan area, we are coming to Warren, Michigan on June 12th for a screening of our film. And I don't have a slide for this next one, but we are also coming to the Fire and Police Games in Birmingham, Alabama, the end of June. June 29th, we'll be in Birmingham. And then we're coming to Wyoming for an event in Casper, Wyoming, for a statewide wellness event on August 7th, I believe that is. We're working on events in Washington State. Just got confirmation we'll be back up in the Boston area later this fall, and we just confirmed an event down in the Charlotte, North Carolina area as well. So a lot of things happening. If you want to book an event for the film, just go to ptsd911movie.com slash screenings and fill out a form. And my buddy Gary will get back in touch with you and help make that happen. If you are part of an agency and want to bring the film to your agency, go to ptsd911movie.com slash toolkit, and where you can order the film and bring it into your agency. We had an amazing event Wednesday night up in Ohio, and some of our mutual friends were there. Aaron and Cinnamon were there. Actually, Aaron was there. Cinnamon wasn't there, but AK was there, and it was great to meet her in person. In fact, she gave me a signed copy of her new book, Beat the
Oh,
Burnout. Yeah, so
okay.
look at this. Look at that. I got it
It's a
signed.
big
So
deal.
yeah. So AK, thank you for this. But my challenge to all of you, to everyone watching, to first responders across the nation, even though your department may not be doing the things necessary to take care of your mental health and wellness, you're still responsible for you.
Yep.
And so do the things that you need to do to get to a better place. And that may mean starting to do some things like learning how to breathe. And so, as our final thing here, Vance, I want you to take us through just a quick breathing exercise. We didn't talk about this ahead of time, but
No, that's cool.
take us through a quick breathing exercise so that we can learn how to do these things.
Sure. So what I'll ask you to do is, for everybody listening, if you're sitting, if you're laying down, just get comfortable. However, whatever comfortable looks like for you, and maybe just kind of take a pause here for a moment and just let everything settle. And then start to take a nice, slow, deep breath in through your nose and let that air start to go through your throat and your lungs and then maybe down into your belly. And then as you let that breath go, rather than just releasing it like you're releasing a balloon, see if you can make the inhale and the exhale about the same length. So it's this nice deep inhalation and a smooth, steady exhalation. If it feels okay to you and you want to close your eyes, you certainly can. And as you just take a couple breaths, just deep breath in through the nose and then letting that go through the mouth. Maybe you start to soften the muscles in your jaw. Maybe you start to soften the muscles on either side of your neck. Maybe you start to soften the muscles of your shoulders. Think about pulling the shoulders down away from the ears. And then maybe just take like maybe two more cycles. Deep breath on the way in. Nice, steady, slow exhale on the way out. All right, last one. Take a deep, deep breath in. Really feel your belly move because you breathe in so deep. And then as you exhale, right, if you close your eyes, you can start certainly flicker them back open. And I want you just to kind of pause for a moment and just kind of acknowledge, how am I doing right here, right now? And maybe that is slightly different than when we started our breathing exercise like a minute ago, but that's the power of breath.
Mhm. So, what I'm going to give you the final word here. What do you want to say to our first responder friends?
Take care of yourselves. Um, you got a long, you got a long life ahead of you, um, and it needs to start in your careers. It needs to start, before you get to that retirement age. Because I thought it myself. I've talked to so many other people that are like, I'll take care of myself and I'll do that when I retire. And if you don't take care of yourself in your career, then by the time you get to that retirement point, you're going to be just a shell. And if you go down the road that I was going down, I don't know that I would have had too many people around me when I got to that 25-year mark. So take care of yourself. Maybe that looks like yoga. Maybe that looks like, cold exposure. Maybe that looks like Tai Chi. Maybe it looks like bicycling. It can look like a lot of different things. I'm just saying, find the things that light you up when you think about them. And then I'll bring another Joseph Campbell around, follow your bliss. So whatever it is that makes you smile, do more of it.
I like it. Vance, thank you so much. Thanks for being a friend. Thanks
Definitely,
for
definitely,
uh, encouraging us and for challenging us to step out of our comfort zone sometimes.
definitely. And I'll make the trip up here very, very soon.
Awesome. Well, we'll have to get together. Hey, everyone, thanks for being here today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being a part of our community here in the First Responder Wellness Podcast. If you know someone who would benefit from this show and from the things that we're doing, please send them the link and connect them. We're going to keep this link private until Monday. So, Monday, this show will go live to the rest of the world. And for all of you that were here, thank you for being here. Thank you for caring. And thank you for taking care of yourself. In the meantime, go out there and take care of yourself and those around you and do something great in the world. We'll see you
Awesome.
next time.
Have a wonderful weekend, everybody.
Stick around.